So just know I ain't no regular fool. Could be anything.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SmallCapSteve Live. We got a big show today. We got Kazan from a new, soon-to-be issuer on the NEO. It's going to be exciting. Glasshouse, cannabis operator out of California. Talking to Kyle pre-interview. He's a ball of energy. Normally we don't get that with public CEOs, so that's going to be fun. Later on in the show, we'll maybe get into some of the Canadian microcap and venture news. We'll see if we have time. So buckle up. Let's get started.
I finally got some please carry on, but please don't mess up the mood.
Kyle, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having me on.
So this is exciting. You guys are a new issuer. You'll be public. Is there a date where you guys are going to de-SPAC and be public?
So the exchange hasn't sent us the date. We're anticipating kind of second week of June is likely when the company's already public, but then when we will basically be acquired and take control of it.
Okay, so I actually know nothing about Glasshouse Farms. I read some articles. We are primarily Canadian public market people, so we kind of see these deals as they go public, and we get excited whenever there's a name that people that sort of source these deals tell us about. And I've been hearing about Glasshouse for a while now, a couple of years of people saying that this is going to be a really big operator to California. So maybe we could start with the high level overview of what Glasshouse is.
Sure. And I'm sorry I didn't meet you. I've been going up to Toronto because really and truly, if you're an American cannabis company, if you're not going to Toronto, you're not kind of in the know. And so lovely city. I love going up there. But we started basically, so my background is private equity. And the only reason I got into this was I have a long track record of happy private equity investors that have made a lot of money with all kinds of crazy things I've brought to them, from really distressed gang-ridden apartment buildings in Southern California. That's where I really cut my teeth, and my background before that really lended itself to that. So I would get stuff from guys on Wall Street going, "Why are we investing in a crack house?" And I'm like, "Because it shouldn't be a crack house. I'm going to change it, and you're going to make a lot of money, and it's better for the neighborhood. How's that?" And they're like, "All right, I'm in. Okay, $250 coming in." So I did that for a long time. And then on my private passion was to speak out loudly against the American drug war, just a complete and absolute failure. So then, I'm doing that in 08, 09, 10, 11. I'm speaking to crickets. I'm speaking to the ACLU. I'm speaking to the John Birch Society. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. And then all of a sudden, momentum for cannabis legalization in the United States picked up. And I was very Googleable. And I was asked to invest in 2011, 2012. And I'm like, no, hell no. And the reason was because a lot of cops didn't like my stance. They felt that I'd sort of, been a turncoat. And because I was heavy in the drug war, heavy. I made lots and lots of arrests. And so, but then once I realized legalization was no longer an if, it was a when. And that was after Colorado and Washington went legal. And in 2014, I started spending a lot of time doing my research because I have been able to be financially successful by investing in capital dislocated markets. That's where you kill it. So if you were one of my investors, my coterie, 2009 and 10, we'd have been buying foreclosed apartment buildings in Atlanta, here in LA. I have stuff in Austin I bought during the dot bomb. So when there's bad things happening and it's time to, Bloomberg Magazine, and I know now it's a bad thing. In 08, they called me a vulture investor. I like to come in when capital is needed, but it's hard to get. So now we come to 2015 and I'm like, okay, I want to invest in Colorado, but Colorado's put up all kinds of barriers for non-citizens of Colorado. So we come back to California. I'm from Southern Cal. I'm talking to you from Long Beach, California right now. born and raised here. I know every city, especially in Southern California. I have businesses I've done here, and I'm politically connected. So I said, this is the fertile ground where we should be. And quite frankly, cannabis in California, this is Mecca. This is like champagne, you go to France. Tequila, you go to Mexico. Napa, you can make a good argument. But at the end of the day, when it comes to cannabis, it's in the culture here. So I felt really good about it. And so I just started doing some private equity funds, and I have this nice following of people, and they were willing to throw in the first fund, 12.6 million. Now, I put in the most amount of money, cash. So I eat my own cooking. And then we just did some private equity funds figuring, these are good deals. You can't really get debt at anything less than, at the time, 20%, which I'm sure, Steve, you're going to go, well, that's crazy. Even today, it's double digit. And equity, 99.something% of the players here in America are on the sidelines. So it's the biggest capital dislocation I've ever seen. And every other capital dislocation I've been part of, I've absolutely been able to kill it for my investors and for me. Mm-hmm. And this has the special part of it to me, that is, we can also do a lot of good here because we need to end this prohibition. There's so many social, but I know small cap is not social cap, Steve, so I won't get too deep into it. But we have a really bad problem with jailing people down here in the United States. And we have people I can even touch on, you'll be shocked. You'll literally, your mouth will go, you got to be kidding me. And that's how bad it is. So in any case, we started buying what we are today to move it much forward. We rolled up our 4 private equity funds. We've raised about $85 million. I am still the largest single cash investor. Again, not promote, cash. And we have 2 greenhouses in really a great area of Southern California, found by ag professors and Dutch farmers. And that's up in Santa Barbara. And what we decided to do was buy the dirt, no rent, no debt, and really learn how to grow. And so we did. We went through all the bumps and bruises of getting licensed and everything else that goes, it's hard here in California. And we said, we're going to be a CPG company. We're going to put this in our own jars. And so, but first we're going to really know how to grow. We're going to grow the best possible product for the lowest possible price, because our COGS should be lower given all the overhead we don't have. And so we did that. We also at the same time opened up 4 dispensaries. One is in Orange County, one is in Los Angeles, one is in the city of Santa Barbara, and one is in the city of Berkeley. So we have a nice cross-reference of data from these different areas. I mean, Orange County, California to Berkeley, about as different in California as you're going to get. But they both love weed. So, and then we have a manufacturing facility, and we did something different. We kept it near our biomass up in Santa Barbara County, where a lot of folks are going out by Palm Springs just because the cities out there are more cannabis lenient, but it's so far from the biomass that it just made no sense to us. So we've been building towards a legalized world and trying to be smart about how we do what we do. But then we sort of hit okay, how do we really grow? You got MSOs, multi-state operators, not here in California, by the way, that are really expanding and raising money because they're on the Canadian exchanges and they've gone public. And nobody has been able to be successful here in California. That's been sort of the white elephant that everybody wants to be successful here, but they haven't been able to be. So we had 3 successful positive EBITDA quarters. So we said, you can be financially successful. It's a high tax state. We have a massive illicit market, which at some point will go away. We can get into that if you want. But we said, what are we going to do to grow? And so we looked at the IPO route, and we said we can raise X amount of money that way. And we have good bankers up there in Canada. And then the SPAC craze happened. And so all the SPACs that you can name, please don't, just because I'm under NDA with all of them, but they all came to our door. And the one that was the most attractive was the Mercer Park brand acquisition SPAC. Part of it was John Sandelman had done it before, and he is the CEO and chairman of AYR, and has been very, very successful. He's a Wall Street guy, derivatives. He understands that capital markets very well. And my longtime business partner runs a huge hedge fund, and he's like, yeah, this guy, he's got it. And then we basically said to them, look, we're not going to come in with a stupid valuation. We're not going to take any money off the table, but we must remain in control of this company. And we looked at the assets that they had been looking at for 2 years, and we're like, look, we're in California, you guys aren't. We really know this. We have the farm, the greenhouse that is the game changer here in California. It's the second largest greenhouse facility in the entire country. Down here in the United States, social justice and green, those are the two topics of the day, and those are the movements happening. This is the greenest facility you'll see. We generate 14 megawatts of clean energy with cogen, which is gas to electricity, and solar. So we really, and we're using well water, we recycle. It's wonderful. And so we have that, which we think we're going to be able to grow high quality cannabis in California for less than $100 a pound. The MSO's average is 700 and a little bit above. So it's far different. And the thing that you're going to like, Steve, is none of our numbers, not one bit of our numbers, look at us selling outside the borders of California. Do I think it'll happen? Yeah, it's a free call option for anybody to invest with us, because every single other industry is allowed to take advantage of the Commerce Clause in our Constitution. So eventually, I strongly believe it'll happen, but I don't want to bet on it because I'm going to get immediately attacked. Better to underpromise and overperform. So we have that. And then the other part we have is we're merging with Element 7. Well, actually, we're buying 17 of their license, and we have an agreement to buy the other 23. So they're the most prolific retail license winner in the state of California. So we'll be the largest licensee we'll be the largest retail owner, and we'll have the largest supply chain. Last point I'll make, and then I'll turn it back to you, is we decided last year during the pandemic, let's turn on our CPG, because we really had dialed in our growing and really got things tight. And so 49% of all sales in the state of California, the largest cannabis market in the world, even bigger than Canada, just by itself, 49% is flower, which would be jars, pre-rolls, that category. We started at number 63 last year. In March and April of last year, we said, okay, let's go. And our COO, who came from Nestle and Nissan Foods, had it all lined up. We finished the year at number 2. So we are now the number 2 flower brand. So in the largest category, in the largest market in the world. And it was, when I say it was easy, yeah, we can't factor. Yeah, it was expensive to just carry it because you have to front load all your costs. But at the end of the day, we sell it at a very good price, and it's very good quality. And, that was the ticket.
So getting a little bit of feedback here. There, I'm going to put you on mute for a second. Okay, so would you say that your advantage in terms of competitive advantage would be being the lowest cost producer? Yes, I would say that. Right now, we're trying to look at it saying, what would keep, if you were in my shoes, and I know you're going to ask me like, okay, what should keep you up at night? Well, you have an illicit market that's 4 times the size of the legal market. Now, I would point out, I used to download music from Napster and LimeWire. Even, maybe I shouldn't have. I know it was illegal, but I also didn't have very many options. And the cost between free LimeWire and $1 or 75 cents, whatever it was, Apple Music, was massively different. And I still chose, and so do most people. I don't think you have much LimeWire left. Just like 1933, prohibition of alcohol ended. I don't know any illegal bars. There probably are some after-hours clubs that I just don't know about, but really and truly, there's a big incentive for the state of California, who has guns in jail, to sort of get everybody onto the legal market. So I think over time, you're going to see that happen. But let's just say right now, there's about 38 million square feet of legal licensed cannabis in the state. We're talking about 5.5 plus our 500,000, so 6 million square feet. Let's just say 1 billion square feet came on, and it's just going to be a Armageddon. As long as we're the lowest cost producer and we can do the consistent supply chain, we will not only survive. We will survive as number 1, but number 2, we should be able to thrive. And then the only difference is keeping our margins. And so, yes, that advantage is something that we really set out. And then having the store shelves, which I think is going to be the other bottleneck that happens as more and more
canopy comes online. And so we have that for ourselves as well. And by the way, we sell other people's brands too, but it's a way for us to highlight and showcase ours.
So I guess the major question I have is, if you have the second largest grow facility in the country, effectively, are you using all that space right now to grow, and is it all being sold into California? Or, sorry, obviously it's being sold into California, but is a portion of that allocated for future potential legislation changes?
So we don't own that yet. That's part of this de-SPAC process. Is it's under contract to purchase it. So
Okay.
Right now we only own and fully operate 500,000 square feet. So this is basically an 11x growth. And so it should close escrow June is when we're slated to buy it. And we're going to buy it all cash. So it's very expensive. But by the way, I'm a real estate guy. We're buying it below replacement cost. It's a long story, but if you guys will probably throw Aurora out at me, and I'll say, because that comes up a lot, and maybe Flower One. And again, I'm not a hater. I'm cheering for everybody. I think a rising tide lifts all boats, but it's a different kind of a deal. One, the light in a greenhouse up in Canada versus the further south you go. California has, for this crop, almost perfect weather. And our light, we need blackout curtains for most of the year because we need to actually limit light. And Flower One they're out in the desert, and they sort of did, if you build it, they will come. We have been very painstakingly taking our time, converting non-cannabis greenhouses to cannabis greenhouses. And so what we're doing is what we've already done at a bigger scale. And to boot, the guy who built the farm, it's starting in 1996, and has made money on 1 cent, margin tomatoes and other veggies. He's going to be on our cap table. He has the option to buy this back. We are buying it with him. We fully incented him to say, look, we're going to teach you cannabis. You help teach us this particular farm. It's worth it. So that's our current farm now. Yeah, I like the video. This
is from the website.
Yeah. That's glasshousegroup.com. And so those are our beautiful farms up in Santa Barbara. So the new one is down in Ventura. So it's about an hour south by drive towards me here in Los Angeles. So and the light is actually even a little bit better down there. So I would say, I'm sorry if I misspoke, but that's part of our future project. And I would tell you, we believe that we could sell easily all of that 6 million square feet here in California without it going across border. If we have the chance to sell it across border in the next few years, or when that happens, we think that our margins will just go up. So it'll more than cover the travel costs.
So I'm assuming that at some point during this whole decision to go public, that you guys must have been approached by a bunch of the current MSOs for takeout offers, because there's a few of them that don't have substantial operations in California, and you guys represent top line revenue, which in today's world companies are seemingly getting valued on top line revenue. So how close were you to being a bolt-on for somebody else rather than going the route where I'm assuming you're eventually going to start bolting other people onto you now?
I would tell you, Steve, we weren't that close. And now here's the thing. I respect, I've had dinner with Boris Jordan over at Cura. I like Boris. I think he's done a heck of a job. I think Ben at GTI has done a great job. And True Leaf, AYR, all those folks have done a great job. The deal that and we've been offered some pretty interesting things along the way, like, hey, would you come down and we'll give you a cultivation in Florida, and you can do glass house there, and you grow for us in Florida, one of the, the vertically integrated monopolies there. And we've looked at things, and we've kind of just said, let's stick with California. Let's consider post-legalization. The MSOs have an issue, in my opinion, and that is when cross-border does happen. And if you talk to them, it's easier for them to say it's not going to happen anytime soon, and maybe it doesn't. I would acknowledge it's not going to happen immediately. But the supply chains, they're vertically integrated in 23, 25, 26 states. That doesn't make any sense. It does today during prohibition. So my thought is there's some future cleanup, write-downs, whatever, and then you're going to have to build up bigger in the right states. And so, and they may shoot at me and say, yeah, do you really want to do manufacturing in California? Yeah, I get there's some issues with that. But at the end of the day, my entire supply chain of 6 million square feet, including the manufacturing, is a 2-hour drive. And I really like that. And so we really want to focus in on, what we're basically building is the largest by far supply chain, the largest retail chain, which then will also include delivery, which we deliver at our 4 stores, but we'll be able to really tie that together. Then we could just build brands, just like we did on the flower side. We'll be able to build brands here in California, and that's where that's what's getting us fired up, is to have the top brands in each category. Like a top 3 in every single category in California. I don't know how that doesn't win at the end of the day. Bolting in Arizona, Nevada, having a dispensary on the Strip, whatever, I think there's others that are doing a great job. Planet 13 is doing a heck of a job with theirs. I think we just need to stick with what really works for us and what our talent is and what our opportunity is. And so that's where we're looking. Bolting in California makes perfect sense. And happy to talk to you about M&A. But outside of California, I have no. And so we didn't get too far down the line when it comes to. By the way, I'm sorry, you hear a siren go by. Good thing is that's not COVID anymore. So, but so what I would tell you is we didn't really go too far down the line with MSOs, and we needed the money to organically grow. And I think I mentioned to you guys basically in the green room before. We in this transaction. So if anybody said, hey, I want to put money with different folks, and SPACs worry me because it's an acquisition, we are taking no money off the table. We are looking at this as our best days are ahead, not just because of the end of prohibition, but because the California market is continuing to grow. And, what is it, 70% of cities and counties still don't have a legal dispensary in the state of California. That's starting to change pretty fast because of the pandemic and the pain from that. So we literally just have a massive opportunity right now that I've never seen in any other business I've been in. And so I'm super excited about it.
How challenging is it to grow at scale? I mean, we've seen a bunch of these Canadian names. They've come out and, we're going to have 1 million square feet of greenhouse. I think Aurora at one point had 7 million in amongst all their operations. How challenging is it to grow at, 500,000 square feet?
Easier today, hard at the beginning. Like we were cavemen looking for light or fire. It was, what I would tell you is my partner is a guy named Graham Farrar. And Graham, so my wins previous to this are all in real estate and businesses related to real estate. His are technology. He was one of the original guys at software.com. He's a MacGyver-like Renaissance man. So he made a lot of money in his 20s, bought a sailboat, sailed around the world twice with a girlfriend that was willing to, I think there he is. I kind of think I'm a pretty good salesperson. I don't think I get a woman to get on a boat with me. Maybe a sunset cruise. This guy gets Sarah to go all the way around the world twice. But he comes back after that adventure, and 5 of his buddies from software.com had started Sonos, which you may have on your, on your phone to play music and stuff like that. It's a massive company in Santa Barbara. And he was number 6 and had a big win there. But his private passion was growing cannabis. And so he had friends that, they'd own a few houses around Santa Barbara and they'd grow cannabis, had grow houses. And so he had a team of people and a passion. And so he had left Sonos. And when we met, we talked because that was one of the big questions. We bought 150,000 square feet of greenhouse. How the hell are we going to do this? Because there's really no data on doing it. And I'll tell you, we did stumble. We had a virus. We were one of the early groups we called UC Davis. Their virology department said we can't touch this because, but talk to my student that just graduated, and so we've had a lot of bumps and bruises. There's also different strains that grow better in the winter than grow better in the summer. So it's been quite a bit of learning. But my point about him being a tech guy is in his DNA is twice as fast, half the cost, and being better. So he would compare that. That is our second farm. But our first farm, he would probably tell you is an iPhone 1. He would call this an iPhone 8. And then the new one would be the iPhone, whatever we're up to now, 14, 12, whatever it is. So, but at this point in time, we really have dialed it in, but it has come at a lot of, the nice thing is if you're an investor now, you've gotten a lot of experience that we've had to, we've had to learn along the way, and it wasn't a free lesson.
So let's maybe get into your background a little bit as a VC. When you were doing venture capital, what was the sort of criteria and the things that you would think about when you were finding areas that you wanted to invest in, and ultimately, how did that lead to you getting into cannabis today?
Yeah, so I would say, I think I would describe myself more as private equity than VC.
Okay.
And I would say that, I originally cut my teeth. I was an inner city school teacher out of college. Turns out no NBA teams, even the Vancouver Grizzlies back then, had no interest in me, and they sucked.
Big country.
Big country. Thank God somebody else was watching Vancouver besides me. I think I have a hat somewhere. I still have a Montreal Expo hat too, by the way. So
they might be coming back too, eh?
I hope so.
The Tampa Bay Rays and Montreal might split half their season in Tampa, half their season with Montreal, and the joke is it would be a great opportunity to rename the team the X-Rays.
I love that. I hadn't heard that, and I'm a big Dodger fan out here. But I would tell you, if you ask me, where do you want to watch a Rays game? Montreal. I've been to Tampa. No, I like the no tax, but I'd rather. Montreal's a fun city. So, but I would tell you what got me when I was an inner city school teacher, and I thought, yeah, I'll be I was a special education teacher. Think Rodney King riots of April of '92. I was right in the middle of that mess, and then we had an earthquake in '94. I mean, it was bad down here, and the real estate markets were getting crushed. And so my then girlfriend, now wife, we started buying stuff still from the tail end of the savings and loan crisis. And there's just a massive capital dislocation in the market. That's where I learned about it. And this was just to be a teacher with a good retirement, so I could go, have mailbox money when I was, in Hawaii someday when I was an older guy. And but what I found was when you buy when things are cheap, or as Warren Buffett likes to say, be greedy when others are fearful. When you have that mentality, and then, by the way, I can be the scaredest rabbit that goes down a hole when things get crazy. And then, by the way, that's when people come up and go, I know you don't want to sell, but what if I gave you, and we had 3 big buildings in Berlin, Germany, and in 2018, the laws were really anti-landlord. So I've got these beautiful buildings that had survived the war, and one was in the gay area and even had a gay bar at the bottom of it, and these big, beautiful units, and it was throwing off a lot of cash. I was like, I'll just keep owning this with my investors. We're making double-digit returns. And then someone shows up and offers us over 40 years of cash flow in a day. And all of a sudden I realized he has a complete better version for this than I do. And we sold it. So, but we bought it at a time when there was total malaise, a generation and change after the wall had come down. And so it was just very painful with East Germans and West Germans. So coming in and parachuting in going, wow, Berlin is going to be massive. And look at the infrastructure, and look at the numbers, and and then by the way, then I look and I see Blackstone, I see Soros, and I see the vultures are all circling, and I'm going, they're seeing what I'm seeing. So this is all leading to cannabis. But then when it came down to, if I told you guys, there's a troubled apartment complex. It's in the city of Los Angeles. These are the challenges: gangs, drugs, this was my expertise because after being a school teacher, I was a police officer and I was trained. Remember, I was also now doing real estate. So I would go to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's gang class. I would go and I became a drug recognition evaluator. So I could walk into someone's living room and I could just tell by their eyes, the pupils and the dilation or lack thereof. And I go, okay, they're on a CNS, central nervous system stimulant or depressant. SmallCapSteve, I know you didn't think we were going to be talking about this. but basically then I could sit down and say, look, guys, we have some problems here, right? And I don't care. You do what you do. But the minute I own this building, we're going to have we will have a problem because now you're at my building, but we can all decide, I'll put a little money in your pocket. You can separate, do what you do somewhere else, and I can focus in and do what I do. And so because of that, nice, well-located, below replacement cost building in Los Angeles, that's troubled, it's making money. But if I'm successful at executing, and after investing with me for 10 years, people are going to go, he does it every single time. And so then it came down to, we bought pecan farms in southern Georgia, just south of Macon, about 10 years ago. And let's see, it had been 2010 or so. So yeah, 11 years ago. And you're going to go, well, okay, why? Well, one of them was called Pecan Ridge. Some home developers during the massive boom of 2006 and 7, where you could do CDOs to finance 105% loans and craziness. Well, turns out there was still an active pecan farm here, and it just got crushed as far as they had roads and signs and all that, but the pecan farm was still intact. So I was able to come in there and buy it for pennies on the dollar. If Pecan Ridge idea ever comes back, I'm probably the same as I was in Berlin. But right now we're making the tariffs from China didn't help us, but we were making like 6 to 8%, just no debt, simple yield. And the investors were like, great, it's perfect. We have a farm manager down there. And then when it came to cannabis, people did go, am I going to go to jail? If I invest in this, and then Jeff Sessions came and then craziness happened. And so I will tell you, I don't have a Harvard MBA, but I'm gritty as hell. And so I will figure it out. If I have to go sit in a gang member's living room with his mom and talk to him, I'll do it. If we have a fire, the state's largest fire, the Thomas Fire, and it is blazing up to Santa Barbara, and my investors around the world are watching CNN, and I'm not saying that they sensationalize everything because the fire was real, but I'm watching this going, is the guy at the gates of hell? Or is this a fire? Well, it was really damn close to our farm and people were panicking. I will tell you that because of people I know and a strike team of firefighters that I know were able to stage on the street where our farm is and actually staged at our farm. So did that mean that if the thing came down at 40 miles an hour, they were all going to stand there? No, they'd have been gone and our farm would have gotten hit. But 90% chance the fire would have gone around our farm. So I'm always looking for how do you get through it? And so when I tell you I'm looking for my advantages and my, where can I play? If I keep my costs low and my quality high, I survive and win. That's the way I look at, that's my calculus here. And so, and then you go, well, you're going to have basically $200 million of unlevered assets, which by the way, when you look at our stock price, and sadly, I've got the ticker on my wall, which I really need to take down. But here's the thing. When we roll in, there are assets here. And I don't know if I can say that about most of the other cannabis companies. We actually have real assets that in a different world, when I don't have usurious lenders sitting across the table, and with no disrespect to all the guys in New York that want to loan me money, put your shark fins back in your suit. I would tell you when I can actually go out and get prime +2, something from the USDA, which are usually even better loans, I will absolutely do it. So I won't have to go back out to the capital market. So myself and any other investors should be able to enjoy using debt wisely without more dilution. Mm-hmm. That's a long answer to, I didn't know the question you asked.
Yeah, I had about 10 follow-ups there. Let's go into this area. I don't know how comfortable you are talking about this, but obviously all over the news, we're hearing about police reform. You're a former police officer. What's your take on what really needs to happen with the police system in the U.S.?
So right now we've got, let's don't do anything. We're police. Just trust us. And then you've got defund, and even there's some abolish the police.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay, guys, neither of these work. And so the first thing that, I was mentioning to you guys again in the green room, the drug war, the American drug war. And I'm going to bring up Parker Coleman. Parker Coleman is my guy to get out of prison. He committed a non-violent, and I'll get to your question more directly in just a moment, committed a non-violent marijuana federal felony. It was his second non-violent marijuana felony. He was sentenced, and the punchline's coming. He's in his 30s. He's done 10 years of hard time down in Beaumont, Texas. His mom and dad live in North Carolina. He has 50 to go. 50. 60 years. Non-violent. So, and now that's on the federal side, that's the crime bill of 1994. The head of the Judiciary Committee at that time was Joe Biden. Who can solve this? Joe Biden. I'm hoping this part he needs to a little bit more cajoling on, but he has made statements that he wants to fix this. There's about 40,000 prisoners that we need to clear. Just clear them. Nonviolent drug felonies, not just marijuana drug. So the war on drugs divides police and the community, because when you're in South Central, there's a lot more drug dealers. Why are there drug dealers? Well, you have a drug war. A lot of the people that participate are males. Males get convicted, even in state court, and then they come back out. So let's take the egregiousness of the 50-year sentence, 60-year sentence. They come out, they have a felony. Can't vote, can't get an apartment, can't get a job. What are you going to do to survive? You're going to survive, number one. You're going to sell drugs. Mm-hmm. So they get into this. So then you go, okay, then you have all these men in prison and in the system. And then there's this bitterness about who's putting them there. The police, who are enforcing bad laws, because the police don't make these laws. So the first thing I would do is I would attack those drug laws, and it's already starting to happen. Legalize and regulate. And I know people think I'm crazy, but it's the least worst option because we've tried the others and they're not working. The second is you do that because people have they have sympathy for Bob, the drug dealer, because he's just trying to care for his family. What else is he going to do? And then the cops come and it turns into a fight. There is no sympathy for the police, no snitch. But they don't have sympathy for the guy that's robbing and stealing or hurting people. And that's what the police should be focusing in on. So if you take the drugs and you turn them into a social issue, and instead of sending people to jail, give them the option to go to drug rehab if they need it or want it.
Yeah.
But get the criminal justice system out of that. And I was a drug warrior. I was part of it. It was a mistake, and I've spoken extensively. Then when people say the body cameras aren't working, I would say BS, because we're all getting to watch the replays. Mm-hmm. And the body cameras need to be on from the minute the police officer leaves the station to the minute he or she comes back.
Yeah. So Kyle, I'm going to tell a story that was on the front page of the Toronto Star, I think maybe 10 years ago. And look, the police system in Canada is different in the US. And look, for our audience, I know we normally talk about micro caps and small cap stocks, but I'm kind of having some fun here. So there's a police officer. I think his dad was a police officer, so he really believed in his role of helping the community, but didn't like all of the police culture that he was sort of surrounded around. And he had a fellow officer who would often drive while drinking a bit, and he warned him a couple times, and then on the third time he said, "That's it," arrested him. Took him into the police station for a DUI. And after that, but the overwhelming amount of police officers, that he worked with made his life a living hell. And then, you think about what happened with Derek Chauvin, and you got 3 police officers watching like some guy get fucking murdered, and they're all afraid to do anything. So it seems like there's this like culture of just like nobody really wants to speak out against what's wrong, and I've had friends that were police officers, and I'm curious your thoughts on this as a former police officer that actually had to leave the job because they just couldn't handle the culture and they just thought it was too much for them. How is that something that you can fix?
So number one, I acknowledge that there is a thin blue line, and that needs to be. But by the way, it's human nature. It's hard because it's the police. But do teachers really say that's a shitty teacher? Excuse my language. That's a terrible teacher. I would not. I mean, the dirty secret on teaching is I even called the high school and go, and a teacher I know, hey man, my son got these teachers. Don't let him have that teacher. Okay? Because in the know, you want that teacher because that teacher's working. This teacher is a waste. It's like, why is that teacher still working? Now, one of the things I would say is I don't think police or teachers need unions. You don't, especially here in California, we basically have collective bargaining baked in. But the union never goes along with any change. And I've been fighting on the drug war front of that for a long time. It took a lot of abuse on that. So when it comes down to like the Derek Chauvin thing, that was sort of mind-boggling to me that I watched that and I'm like, now two of those guys I think were in their first week. I think in my first week I probably would have trusted that, I don't want to lose my job. And there is a chain of command. But after I would say at least a few months, it would have been, dude, get off his neck. And I've seen that now. There was a video released recently where an officer punched somebody handcuffed, I think in Colorado. This came out a week or two. I get all the videos. And the two officers that were there pushed the guy back, pushed him off. So, and police officers have now been going to jail since 2014. There's one at least every single year that I've seen for a pretty egregious malfeasance. And so I think that is now changing as people are going, I'm going to be under threat because the body cameras make it clear that everybody's going to see what the hell you're doing. So it's one of those things where people act different when they know they're being watched. And so now you're going to have that. So I can't stress how big it is that every police officer, even undercover, can put an undercover. You could have it in what I'm wearing here. You wouldn't even know. Should have this for accountability. And also something else is at the department I was with, if I got into a shooting or 300 members of my department sworn, the person investigating that shooting was a detective from my department that knows me. So if I shoot you, and these are good police officers, these are nice people, but what are the chances that they're really going to come out? They're already bent towards me. And so we should have the state or the feds. Absolutely. There's like 11 things on law enforcement action partnership. I'm a member of that group and I speak on behalf of that group that they laid out there. And so the other part though that needs to, the difference between Canada and the United States almost anywhere else is we have the Second Amendment down here. And I will tell you, there is not one shift that was on in 5 years that my gun did not leave its holster, because there are dangerous people here. And I did, I answered 911 calls to strangers, that needed help. And that was my primary role. So I looked at myself as a peace officer. I'm here to keep the peace. And too often here, at least in the United States, I'm not going to speak for any other country, we're the dumping ground. If you don't know what to do, send the cops. Mentally ill, homeless, the politicians haven't solved it, send the cops. Well, what do you want the cops to do? You give them no tools. And some of these folks are crazy. The more you send the police at some small percentage, and you guys are financial guys, there is going to be no 0% bad outcome. Like, for instance, the menthol ban. All of a sudden, this thing's about to get... Let me ask you this. Do you think banning menthol cigarettes in the United States makes good sense?
What's it going to change?
Well, here's the thing. I just saw as part of this, kind of the whole administration, it's a big push. And let me tell you why it's a bad idea. 80% plus of menthol cigarette users are black. Okay? Now, you can buy Marlboros which are not menthol, but you're going to take away the cigarettes that black people use. Okay, now you're going to make a law. Who enforces the law? The police. You're now going to give the police more reason to go and detain black people. How's that going to work out? And again, there's no 0% bad outcome. Is it worth the cost to not let a black person have the freedom at 18 years old to buy a regulated product, a menthol cigarette? Or are we going to save them from themselves by having the police come? At some point, when do you start having police sit outside McDonald's and say, sir, you have 3 Big Macs and your BMI is 50. Step out of the car, please. I'm going to help you save yourself. I mean, it's a dangerous, and this is my frustration, is like, you asked me a very legitimate question about policing in America. And then the discussion now is, okay, let's make more laws, and who has to enforce them? The police. And you're going to throw them on black people. And by the way, I don't love I don't get called to help out on marijuana issues anymore to speak out. Not that there's a huge amount, but because I'm conflicted. But I was aligned with BLM and some of the other local groups here in California that was trying to fight the menthol ban here, because San Francisco actually did a menthol ban, which is, and they were like, we don't want more police causing problems. We saw what happened to Eric Garner, who was selling loose cigarettes in New York. And here's a hard part. What do you want the police to do? If they get back in their car and leave, they'll get fired. If they don't take some action and he won't go with the program, you have to use force. And again, 0% of bad outcomes is not a possibility. So it's like, I think we really need to look and see, how are we going to use our police? And what laws do we want to pass? And that's why I've been a registered libertarian. I'm extremely liberal on social. I'm extremely conservative fiscally. But I really want people to just, as much as possible, keep the government back, because this is where you have bad outcomes. Again, the culture is changing. The cameras are helping. Courts are prosecuting. DAs are prosecuting. And I think what you're going to find is police are going to, they're going to start changing. But what we cannot have is them not rushing to calls to help people and letting things work themselves out and that have them take report. That's not what we want as society. We need to have an engaged police force with the community. So, and by the way, Breonna Taylor, you guys probably heard about that one down in Louisville, and then this one in North Carolina that I'm expecting that this is going to be an ugly shooting. Both of these were for drug warrants. Both of these did not have to happen. Legalize and regulate, those don't happen. Those stupid warrants don't happen. And cops won't get killed, and people won't get killed. Breonna would be alive. So that's kind of my take on it. And I get asked all the time. And my wife reminds me, she goes, for 5 years, I just wanted you to come home. And I knew you were helping strangers. And I said, so the majority of police officers out there, the vast majority, are doing their best to work a very difficult situation in America. So that's kind of my long-winded answer to the question. Yeah. I'm hopeful though, and I believe the arc of justice always moves in the right direction. Gets a little bumpy sometimes, and Mr. Floyd's death, while certainly tragic, we hope will certainly encourage more change.
Mm-hmm. I've also noticed, just in general in the States, just having traveled a little bit through the States, that you can get a pretty big difference in police culture, and perhaps this is just observational or anecdotal, but from one state to the next, there can be a pretty big difference in the way police officers treat ordinary citizens.
And training, we used to, and this sounds really bad and sounds totally arrogant, but in California, they really put you through basically the longest training and the hardest training of any state in the country. And we would watch snippets of the TV show Cops, and some of the tactics being used were just, if a police officer is using bad tactics, that increases the chance of a bad outcome, because it puts themselves in a dangerous situation. And when a person's in a stress situation and they are trying to fight or flight and they can't usually flight, so we would watch those videos and just scratch our heads and go, what kind of training are they doing in that state or this state? Absolutely. And that's the other thing I would say to everybody. The chances of having a bad outcome with a police officer, well, never is zero if you just go with the program, because you don't know that person that's at your window or at your door. You don't know how they function under stress. So be careful about testing them because they're armed. If you go with the program and let them not feel stressed, don't put your hands in your pocket. If they ask you to do something, do it. You have a much better chance of a very good outcome. And that's amongst any race. My wife is not Caucasian, so my son, not Caucasian. And then our other son it's long story, is Caucasian. We tell them all the same thing. Don't stress the person there. And the same thing, you go to Target, if you start yelling at somebody there, you're not going to have a good day. That person just had a bad day, you would too. And I don't mean to conflate a very serious issue with a cashier at Target, but in a sense I do, in that, if I start yelling at you, give me an answer, you're not going to function at 100%.
Yeah, that's so let's wrap it up here. And I know you got a hard stop, but okay, so you chose to go public on the Neo. That's going to happen relatively soon. Why the Neo?
It was actually John Sandelman who chose that before he came to us, but it was a consideration. We think the Neo is the better exchange up there to be on, since TSX is not something we can join. Between CSE and Neo, we like Neo better, and we also trade on the OTC. So for Americans, it's a lot easier to, you can get a Schwab account and trade on the OTC. When you have legends and everything else that you have to deal with in Canada, it's harder. But we just think the Neo is, I was really happy. That was part of the reason we chose Mercer Park. So, go Neo.
Yeah.
It's not just the name of Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. It's an exchange.
Yeah, it's relatively new, and it's I was saying before that it's becoming popular because it's on Wealthsimple and the CSE isn't. So now we're starting to see a lot of the listers, a lot of the new issuers come, and they're listing on the Neo, which is it's interesting to see, and it's probably pretty scary for the CSE, who was sort of this like junior exchange people kind of laughed at, and then they got all these like real companies with real EBITDA, real balance sheets listing, like TrueLeaf and Green Thumb and Curaleaf, and now they're starting to lose out to the Neo. But I just think it's interesting. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us, and good luck on the go public, and we'll be rooting for you, and hopefully you'll come back on and update us once you have some more developments.
Gentlemen, I see all the cops now. They're coming for me. Thanks to your damn questions. Thank you guys for having me on. It was a fun interview. A lot of times I stick to such a tight script. You guys are, it's a fun show to watch because you guys are just really, really having some fun. So thank you for having me on. Total pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
Okay, let me get the graphic off here. So that was fun. Are there any stories you want to cover quickly before we wrap it up?
Quickly. Let me give a quick perusal. I don't think there's anything.
There was a ton of U.S. tech big cap earnings that came out last night.
Yes, there's a ton. I'm backlogged like no other in terms of stuff that Justin wants me to get out the door for him. This afternoon we have Jason Wild on the Daily Dive, so that's a great show. Jason's a great guest. Outside of that, we've got some stuff on electric cars going out this afternoon, some on resource pricing, and I'll see what I can get out for Justin's earnings notes before he picks up the phone and yells at me. So busy day.
Yeah. We just got a note from Kyle saying Jason invested in Glasshouse, so you might want to ask him about us.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and so I think we had Emily Paxia on from was it Poseidon? Didn't she invest as well?
I think she mentioned Glasshouse at the very least.
I think somebody said in the comments that she did. Okay, so guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Nothing we talked about on the show is a buy or sell recommendation. If you're looking for financial advice, find somebody who's licensed. We are not. This is for information and entertainment purposes only. Look, you could have spent your last hour staring at any screen, any place in the world, but you chose to spend it with us. I sincerely appreciate that and hope you will be back tomorrow to join us at noon. All right, enjoy your trading day, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.